Warning. This is a review of the I Spit on Your Grave 2010 remake of the 1978 original. As such, the topics explored remain similarly grounded in horrifying horror as opposed to fun horror. Said topics still include sexual assault up to and including rape. While not quite as much as the original, it is still very much more graphic than its average depiction in cinema. The presentation will still be heavily edited to comply with community guidelines and my own sensibilities. Take heed, and remember, if you are not comfortable with the topics presented, it is perfectly fine to not watch the video. Thank you, and please enjoy. Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality who really needs to stop listening to them. Watch I Spit on Your Grave, they said. It'd be fun, they said. What's the worst that could happen, they said. Well, for one thing, I'm referring to myself in the third person. Because we're back looking at another I Spit on Your Grave. No, not the official sequel I Spit on Your Grave Deja Vu, that's supposed to be coming out April 23rd. Nor the unofficial sequels like Savage Vengeance. No, we're looking at I Spit on Your Grave all over again in the form of a remake. Because when I watch an unforgettably disturbing movie that gets me caught in a loop between having nightmares and taking showers, I just wonder, what would it be like with an actual budget behind it? As such, the plot is very much the same. Jennifer Hills is a big city writer who heads out to the country to work on her novel. And then, I Spit on Your Grave happens. And some dumb motherfuckers out there think it's a fun idea to watch sequels and remakes and play Spot the Difference, as if that there's a really good reputation for sequels and remakes that aren't of movies that were banned. So, anyway, let's take a look at I Spit on Your Grave 2010. Right after I make sure that I have my therapist's number saved. We skip right the fuck past New York to open up on the open road. With music this time, which is good. And kind of bad, because the lack of a music track meant that the scenes themselves had to convey their feelings through visuals and cinematography, and now you have that little reminder creepy music trying to say you're supposed to feel creeped out right now. That's not the only thing changed up this time around. When Jennifer Hills, played by Sarah Butler, stops to get the key to the rental property she's got, we're introduced to a new character. Earl, played by Tracy Walter, her old friend Malak from Conan the Destroyer. She's not sure how to get to this place, though, so he draws her a crude map. However, we soon find out. She has to stop for gas! Yeah, having music tell you how to feel is kinda weird, come to think of it. This time, though, she stopped not just for a fill-up, but because she just can't figure out where the hell her new summer home is located. Not to worry, Johnny, played by Jeff Branson, knows exactly where it is. While here, she's also creeped on by both Johnny and Andy, played by Rodney Eastman, but laughs off their pathetic attempts at pickup lines. Johnny tripping over his own bucket is enough to get everyone else to laugh too, but never mind any of that for now. It's time to play the creepy music on the way home and put all the important stuff away. And as far as I can tell, she doesn't eat. Her body just runs on alcohol. There's also the fact that this movie obviously takes place in more modern times, what with her writing on a laptop and chatting with friends on her cell phone. However, strange noises near her shed that night, and the spooky music playing, leave her feeling uneasy. So much so, she ends up spilling her dinner on her clothes. Oh well, better do the Halloween thing and get naked to clean them. God damn it, come all the way out here and somehow the NSA still finds you. Soon after, during a jog, Jennifer just so happens to find an abandoned house out in the woods. Looks like no one has been here for years. Well, that could be convenient if you just so happen to need a hideout during a long and painful quest for revenge later. Ah well, jog is over, time to wash up.
Ew.
Ah, you're new to the country, so let me just give you the lowdown, Jennifer. Sweat or muddy water? Which is cleaner? She can't handle that, though, and calls up a repairman to come down and fix this shit.
Oh.
No, rice. Do the rice thing. You put it in a bag with rice. I mean, that worked for me when I accidentally dropped my phone in the washing machine. Twice. The man sent down there to fix her plumbing is Matthew, played by Chad Lindbergh. So in this movie, he's no longer a grocer, but he's still not exactly what you'd consider neurotypical.
All fixed.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, you saved me from having to bathe in the lake.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Not sure if it's the human contact he was taken aback by, or the BO. But now we see the guys and their fishing pastime. A bit different as well, they just beat the crap out of a catfish with a bat for the lulz. We also see our voyeuristic cameraman character is Stanley, played by Daniel Franzese. With them all gathered around, they spend some time oogling Stanley's recordings while making fun of Matthew for running away from a kiss. But then again, not even Johnny can get with this city girl.
I'll tell you something. I had that bitch creaming her panties.
Yeah, and she had you shitting in yours.
And this conversation, is actually a lot more believable than the "city girls are so easy, I'm gonna go to every major city and fuck all the girls" conversation they had in this fishing trip on the original. It's one of the few areas where the remake actually does manage to feel more real. Especially as it results in Johnny declaring that he is such a fine alpha specimen, he can have anyone he wants, anytime he wants. Cue the spooky music. As Jennifer hears strange noises outside her house that night, and she finds a dead bird on her porch. Going out for a second more to investigate turns up nothing, but when she gets back to the house... We find out that this version of events spends far less time on build-up and kinda cuts to the chase. It's really not great. I am going to be editing out a lot of this, but there are a few points I would like to touch on. First of all, no, this is not a minor build-up part. All the guys are here, and you know where this is going. Last chance to back out and turn the video off if this is more than you can personally handle. Anyway, before going all out, the guys do everything they can to humiliate the woman. First of all, force her to drink alcohol. It's certainly bad, but somewhat odd, but not nearly as strange as the next thing they've got in store for her.
I want to see your teeth.
What?
He asks her to smile. Fucking really? I mean, yeah, it is extremely annoying and pretty rude for random strangers to just ask you to smile out of the blue for no fucking reason, not having any idea what the hell your day's being like. But there's a world of difference between being asked to smile and being raped. It's not just a small comment in passing either, they make a big deal about it. Like Johnny was raised on one too many Colgate cartoons and just can't get off unless he can give a full dental exam beforehand. This kind of behavior continues with Johnny forcing her to perform fellatio on a gun, and Andy attempting the same with a liquor bottle, all while Stanley's trying to turn this into a goddamn found footage film. But then... Jennifer breaks free and escapes! But this is still an I Spit on Your Grave film, so I'm really not feeling too confident about that. Escaping into the woods, Jennifer for some reason thinks this will be easier without her sandals. Her very important sandals. Remember them! Soon after, she runs into Earl and a friend out hunting. The friend happens to be the local police, Sheriff Storch, played by Andrew Howard. Rather than take her to the hospital or the station, though, he says they should head back to the house so he can confront that dastardly group of deviants. Johnny and the boys have a reputation around here, it seems. Unfortunately, though, when they get back, the sheriff soon changes from trying to make sure she's okay to asking about her alcohol consumption and evident use of marijuana cigarettes.
They came in here and they assaulted me! You have to believe me!
Ma'am, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. You're making serious accusations about boys I've known since they was kids.
Which could come off as the average you can't count on the police to help you aside in a lot of horror movies, but I Spit on Her Grave was inspired by an actual rape victim Miyazaki was trying to help, and he first brought her to the police to make sure that the rapists don't get away, but they kind of ensured that they would get away because they were caught up on pedantics like forcing the woman to pronounce her full legal name as clearly as possible, despite the fact that she had a broken jaw. So, yeah, truth can be even more fucked up than fiction. So instead of actually helping this woman, the cop just tells her to get against the wall for a pat-down, which very obviously is not about searching her for concealed weapons, because surprise, surprise, he was in cahoots with this little band of miscreants all along. This leads to... that part of the movie. And no, I'm not going to bring out the dolls this time, because most of it doesn't even happen on screen, it's far less graphic, and you already know what happens anyway, so I can really just summarize the fuck out of this. This time, Matthew does go first, and dear God is it disturbing. Following this, she just walks away from them, going out into the woods. They still manage to surround her again, but don't ask me how they knew where the hell she was going. They find the time to torture her more in between bouts, holding her face underwater before we then move on to Storch going at it, and then a blackout. It's implied that in between the blackout and her regaining consciousness, every single one of them took a turn. Just like before, though, she gets up and starts wandering away, though this time her destination seems a bit clearer.
Where's she?
Escaping into the murky water. Because even though they plan to kill her to keep anyone from finding out about this, you do that, the movie will be over too fast. They figure now is the time to actually give a shit, though, so Storch commands the group to check the river for any signs of her, which turn up empty, but her location can wait. He's got more important things to deal with.
Asshole! Fuck you see me there for, you moron!
Well, that's one good deed for the day. Made sure there's no way this is going to turn into a found footage film. It really doesn't absolve his sins, but it gives his character some depth. So while they can't find Jennifer's body anywhere, they still do their part to remove any trace of her from the area, stripping her car down to its base parts, destroying all of her property from her house, and returning the key with a story about how she just up and left with no word. Those crazy city folk, always disappearing without a trace.
My lucky day.
What's that?
No refund policy.
And nobody pays it any mind. As long as it's not affecting them in a negative way, who really cares? Man, I wish I could complain about that being inaccurate. The problem for them, though, is you really can't do shit like this without it coming back to haunt you. In Matthew's case, quite literally, as he's gone a bit off the deep end, is getting visions of Jennifer coming back as that bitch from The Ring. Also, while Storch said she just up and left one day, it seems she did have a family who are very confused as to why they haven't heard anything from her. And the sheriff was the last person to have seen her by his own admission. Also, surprise, someone stole Stanley's smutty snuff chute. Surprise to everyone as they saw Storch stomp it.
Man, Storch didn't smash shit. I replaced it with a new one. The sheriff stomped it on the one that had nothing on it.
Well, considering just how long you were documenting, exactly how damn many tapes and batteries do you carry around with you? That's some pretty impressive capacity if you manage to fit all the heinous shit onto one. These guys aren't happy with this revelation, but they should be able to avoid the worst of it so long as nothing happens. Like, Storch receiving that tape in the mail the next morning, his wife thinking it's a happy recording of their daughter's school projects or something. But even though it's been over a month since that day, he knows well what's on it, and shows up finding out that everyone knows he destroyed a blank tape.
No, Sheriff, I just found out about myself.
Or yesterday, there was this spooky nighttime scene with dead birds on my porch and everything, but we're all here again and changed clothes, so yeah, yesterday, I think. But based on that nighttime scene and the slipper leading to the discovery of a pile of rubber bands, Johnny here thinks that Matthew has lost it and is toying with them. Either way, the real, true, actual tape is destroyed, and then Storch can go on that happy quail hunting trip with Earl, stopping to have a sip of some top-shelf liquor.
Usually you don't get something like this except at baptisms and weddings.
And funerals.
Sheriff, you mind explaining what the fuck you did that for?
Loose ends.
Loose end. The guy who knew nothing and believed your bullshit story was a loose end that you had to tie up. Got it. Now I just have to worry about the fact that you were planning this hunting trip with him for months, and people know, and your wife especially, she knows all about it, and he's now disappeared and had a job, pretty important one in town. People are gonna notice that. But there's still Matthew, who is hanging around Jennifer's old rental. However, strange noises lure him inside, and then strange noises downstairs lure him, well, never mind, he just falls down the stairs and knocks himself the fuck out. Waking up later in that abandoned house from earlier, we see Jennifer is in fact still alive, telling him this is all just a dream. He approaches and begs her forgiveness, saying over and over how sorry he is. But
Again, I'm sorry you are.
ah yes, we're getting to the revenge part of the movie. Skipping over the painful recovery and the planning part, which is a bit strange, but it left it a little more open. You could think, hey, maybe she really did die, and Matthew has gone off the deep end, and he's gonna be exacting revenge on everyone else. Which would be a hell of a thing for a remake of I Spit on Your Grave, to make Matthew the killer in Day of the Woman. Strangling him with a rope, she drags him off screen. And then we can see how Stanley and Andy are doing, trying to track down that crazy bastard Matthew. Splitting up, always a good idea in horror movies, Andy discovers the abandoned house and sees that it's not quite as abandoned as it seems. While Stanley, on the other hand, steps right into Jennifer's trap. In quite possibly the most literal way he could have. His screams of incompetence get Andy's attention, but goddamn, does this woman take whack-a-mole seriously. In case you think this movie's gonna do a 1-2 and you're done job with the revenge kills, don't worry. Every last one of them is meticulously tortured and killed, in adequately creative ways. You could say Jennifer had a lot of time to think about this. First of all, our voyeur and glutton. Jennifer is sure to get everything on camera, just like he would like it, and even feeds him some spare vermin that's well past its due date. Too gentle for you? Well, next she gets out the fish hooks. And the effects are convincing enough. Fish hooks in the eyelids tend to be one of those things that make you wince on the concept alone. But it's not just him she has to murder the shit out of. There's Andy inside, tied up and suspended over a bathtub. After a game of Dunk the Douche, Jennifer helps Stanley out by rubbing some fish guts all over his eyes, and it's back to Andy to mix things up a bit.
I'm impressed. You got a lot of fight in you. Let's see how you do now.
Pouring lye into the water, creating a chemical solution that will heat up the water to near boiling point and cause chemical burns. But it won't actually fizz. Lye doesn't really do that, but that's because they actually use crushed up Alka-Seltzer. The rest of the revenge is pretty hands-off. Andy can tire himself out trying to hold himself up and dunk his face into the lye solution over and over again, while Stanley gets his eyes pecked out by birds. And before long, they can both find themselves fucking dead. With that job taken care of, now it's time for Johnny to do what he does best.
I fill you up.
Say the wrong shit to the wrong person and regret it instantly. And there's no happy bath with a naked woman waiting for him in this movie. Only the most extreme dental exam of his life!
Your mouth doesn't look so good. Maybe you should show me your teeth.
This is another thing that just kinda makes me wince. I guess it's just the feeling of having your teeth crushed and pulled out of your head bit by bit is just one of those things you don't forget. The torture porn is cranked up to 11 in this scene, from pulling his teeth to forcing him to fillet a firearm, and of course we can't forget the all-important garden shears to the groin. Several minutes of muffled screaming later, and Johnny finally stops moving. Now all that's left is that happy family man! You know him, married to his wife, played by Molly Milligan, and with that daughter, Chastity, played by Saxon Charbino. The two of them are just so happy to finally meet Chastity's new teacher, and can't wait for her father to meet her.
It's truly an honor to speak with you, miss.
Hills. Jennifer Hills.
Oh, damn it! I knew I should have killed my wife and daughter, too. Loose ends. Rather, he is concerned that his family is in danger. There's a deviant in the house. Other than him. However, when he rushes home, he finds out that Miss Hills took their daughter to the park to bond. Thus, he rushes down to the park himself. However, upon arrival, it seems they are nowhere to be found. Matter of fact, no one at all. Which is pretty damn lucky for Jennifer. Imagine trying to knock out a police officer and just steal his car and kidnap him driving off into the horizon. All the while, there's like 5 families in the background just watching you do that. Not nearly as awkward as what Jennifer has set up. Sheriff's got a shotgun shoved in his sphincter, and is pleased that she can't do this to him because his daughter is oh so innocent, results in the predictable boomstick butt bang you probably saw coming. However, something here could surprise you. Matthew is still alive! And the shotgun's trigger is tied to his wrist, so Probably not for much longer. I seriously have no idea how she times people waking up so well, but this time she takes the Bond villain route, leaving them alone in the room and just assuming it all goes to plan.
Matthew. Sir? Matthew, no! Sir! Matthew!
Which it does! But, you know, not to be nitpicky, but, I mean, would it really make that loud of a boom? Wouldn't that guy's ass kind of work like a suppressor? Therefore, happy ending! Everyone is dead! Except for Jennifer. Roll credits. All 5 of them! Plus Earl, which is still better than the original movie that's posters said that there were 5 men and there is really only ever 4. But either way, that was I Spit on Your Grave 2010, and it does a lot of things better than the original, but other things, well, it's more watchable. Which isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, sure, this movie would likely be a little easier to sit through than the original, but again, while I find it strange to condemn a horror movie for being too horrifying, it's just as odd to praise one for being less so. The subject matter isn't popcorn entertainment, and it feels less impactful this time around. Not to say it's shot like a PG production and suitable for all audiences, far from it, just not as far as the original. With less build-up to the terror and no long, painful recovery, it just feels like it's not taken quite as seriously this time around. However, when it comes to the revenge and the horror payoff, this version more than scratches that sadistic itch. Every single one of the perpetrators is meticulously tortured and killed. There's no chop the end here. It's straight up torture porn territory. A good balance to the movie, pairing one scene that's very difficult to watch with another that arguably can be a bit tough on the stomach. Also, the reason I set forth to review these movies anyway, Sarah Butler. She was alright. It's hard to gauge her acting chops from this film alone, because with less time spent on build-up and no long painful recovery, there's not as much of a range of emotions on display this time around. For those present, she does a very good job, but it does seem like her capabilities are underutilized here. Overall, I Spit on Your Grave 2010 is a respectable remake that does address several of the criticisms I had with the original while bringing it to a modern setting. However, while they did eventually release this unrated, the original intent was to shoot for an R, and it does show, which is a bit at odds with the subject matter. Still, it holds itself well enough together to come in at 3 loose ends out of 5. Surely, if I kill everyone in town and the state police show up finding nothing but me and a whole bunch of spent casings, that's not suspicious at all. Thank you all for watching. I have been Shado, and remember, rice in a bag. It works. I've tried it.